So, okay. And a few months back, Geshe-la told me to give a talk on the history and values of Kangyur and Tengyur translation. So due to some other works, I could not actually do this before. So today, I think for me, it's the best time to do this talk. And Geshe-la and Geshe-la know me very well because we are together in a Serame monastery. I was also a monk at Serame monastery. So let's begin with that everybody knows I think everybody knows the life of Buddha, about the life of Buddha. But when we are going to talk on the Kangyur and Tengyur, we have to go back to the time of Buddha, because this Kangyur and Tengyur, and I mean actually the Kangyur, originated to Buddha himself. So we need to talk a little bit on his how the teaching of the Buddha has been compiled by the Arahats, such as Kashyapa, Ananda, and all his disciples of his time. So I will talk just a kind of a recap, just a little bit of the Buddha's life, that I'm not going to talk about his childhood or events, but Buddha, when he actually renounced the world at the age of 29, and he left his palace, Kapilavastu, at present in Nepal, and he went in search of truth, and he was roaming in the jungles of the nearby Magadha and all those places, and he met some teachers there, like what do you call that? Sorry, like Chulung Yusung, that the Kashyapa, two brothers, Kashyapas, and he met many other teachers also, but he was not satisfied with their teaching and the answers to his quest. So after that, he just to follow. So the ascetic practice of that time of the Hindus, those days actually they are not called Hindus, they are like Tertikas, you know. And Hindu word is very late. It's it's something like after, you know, India was occupied, or India was ruled by the British. So he practiced 6 years long, what we call it, like 6 years hardship, not even eating. And at the end of 6 years, he thought that the giving hardship to one's own body and to oneself is not going to be, fruitful. So he found this really futile. So after that, the village girl called Sujata, she offered kheer. Kheer, that is the rice cooked with milk. And then he gained his energy back. And after that, he went to just near to Bodh Gaya right now, what we call Bodh Gaya right now. And then after meditating, he attained enlightenment at the age of 35. So at the age of 35, he attained enlightenment. And after that, he teaches for long 45 years till his death at the age of 80. And during that 45 years of teaching, and there usually we have this more prevalent, that is the first, the turning of wheel of Dharma at Sarnath, and second at Rajgir, and third at Vaishali. So during those teachings, the Ananda, his attendants, always with him. He always attended the Buddha as his retinue or his attendant. And during these 45 years of his teaching life, Buddha, he spent almost 44 years as a summer retreat in Shravasti, 44 years of Shravasti. And that is the longest time that he spent his life in one place. So in Shravasti, when you go to Shravasti at these days also, you will find there is one Anadbinda Aram that actually that retreat kind of place was offered by a lay person, a household called Anadbindata. And when we read the Vinaya text, so you will find a lot of these events, a lot of these narrations in Vinaya text. And during that long period of 45 years, he taught many disciples in different places and different disciples and different kind of intellects. So after attaining the age of 80, and every year is common to everybody that he attained the nirvana. So this is how, as the Buddha, during his lifetime, he taught his what do you say, whatever he achieved during his after the Buddhahood. He taught this to his disciples. So now, after the before Buddha's death, before Buddha's attainment of nirvana, Shariputra, one of his main student, main disciple, and Mudgalya, they attained nirvana. Actually, they attained the nirvana, and along with them, many thousands of the arahats, they also attained nirvana, and they are no more in this world. And these events have occurred before the death, or before the demise of the Buddha himself. So during those days, actually, and after the attainment of nirvana by the Buddha, that his teaching was not documented, but that was exist in the form of oral transmission. And after the demise of the Buddha, and at the same time, the demise of many of the arahats and many of the learned disciples, the Kashyapa thought, so if such things happened in the future too. And many of the learned disciples and arhats, if they attain nirvana, then what would we happen to the teaching of the Buddha? That may actually deteriorate or maybe declined. So he thought now it is the best time to convene a council to compile the teaching of the Buddha from the arhats who are actually who have the power of memorization, that they never lose their memory, whatever the Buddha taught them. So he wanted to collect or compile all those teachings by Buddha at his time before it would decline from this world. So according to the Mahayana tradition, actually, 3 Buddhist councils were held, and to preserve and authenticate the teaching of the Buddha after the demise of the Buddha himself. So for that, Kashyapa told to convene the council, and also he wants all the arhats and who are all who wherever they are should come to Rajgriha so that they can convene the council. And once they sent a messenger to an arhat called Palangdak, actually the Pashupati or Pashuswami. So he, when Gopati or something they called it. So when the monk went to him, then he requested the arhat to come to Rajgir, and he was requested by the Kashyapa to come there to compile to compile the Buddha's teaching. And that arhat Gopati, he actually asked many questions to him, and lastly, when he came to know that Buddha was no more, then he, by his power of arhatship, he ended his own life, and with his power, his body was actually burned itself by the fire. And these accounts and these events are well documented in the Vinaya, Chudrak Vinaya, actually, and in the Dege Kangyur, actually Dege Kangyur, that is in the Vinaya Tha volume of Vinaya, and we can find that a whole very long, many pages of the documentation of these events, almost like a folio number 300 or something, to the end of that whole volume. So and the first council actually was sponsored by the King Ajatashatru of that time. And when the Kashyapa actually convened the council, there are 499, one short of 500 arahats came together with other many learned disciples of that time. And Ananda was also there, but there is a different story or different event of this, that Ananda at that time was not Arahat. He did not attain Arahatship. And Anand, that Kashyapa and other, they have actually framed Ananda that he have committed like 8 mistakes during his life attending the Buddha. So that's why he should actually, they said you should go from this and do the retreat or the meditation, and then after attaining the Arhatship, you should come join them. And because this is what, because the Ananda is the only person or the only disciple who is always present with the Buddha. So whatever the Buddha taught to the disciples, Ananda was there and he knows. So after practicing, after the serious, the rigorous practice, Ananda attained the Arhatship, and then the first council actually happened with the compilation of the Tripitaka. So that is the first time that all the Tripitaka, that the Buddha's teaching, were compiled together in a manner of oral transmission. So in that one, Ananda compiled the Sutra Pitaka, and the Kashyapa compiled the Abhidharma Pitaka, and Purna, he compiled the Upali. Sorry, this is not Purna. There should be Upali. I just put a wrong name here. Upali Nyawarkor. He compiled the Vinaya Pitaka. So this is how the Buddha's teaching of three Pitaka, or what we translated in English sometime like 3 baskets of the Buddha's teaching, has been compiled at that time, just after the demise of the Buddha. And so this is how that the first, the source of the Kangyur and Tengyur, what we are talking about, is from that period. And that is, it comes from the Buddha's teaching itself. And that way, in that first council, it was like compiled all 3 Pitakas all together with the help of all the Arahats and the learned disciples. And they have verified, and they decided that these are the teaching of the Buddha. So there should not be any, they should not add anything to this teaching, and which may actually contaminate the teaching of the Buddha. So this is a source, what we are talking about, Kangyur and Tengyur. And then a second council was held in Vaishali. So this is a very long story also, Vaishali, why they actually convened this second council. So those days, when there's another story also, but I'm not going to maybe go into much detail in this one. But the second council was held in Vaishali after the 110 years of the Buddha's demise. So at that time, when there are some monks in the Vaishali, that they are practicing some kind of things that which is against, which violates the Vinaya. there are 10 points, actually, they call it. What they call it, Rumamayimbe Shiju, which is not actually suitable. 10 points of unsuitable practices that were practiced by these Vaishali monks. So when Arahat, the Kirti or Thakpa, what we call him, he was very worried about these practices because it's against the rule of the Vinaya. So then he was he actually cannot convene those Vaishali monks. When he talked to them, that they don't actually listen to him, but they want to continue to practice that practice those things which are actually against the Vinaya rules. So there's something like, they said that after after committing some kind of violation, and they want to say that hulu hulu, after they're doing that, then they said it will purify what they did against the rule, something like that. There are like 10 points, and like or something when they did something which is against the Vinaya, and they force the other monks just to do the admiration what they did. And once they did the admiration for this for them, then they said it is there will be no actually fault in that, something like that also. So it is something today's political world. So this is also one of the points that what they commit at those days or at the time. And also there's something like 10 different points and the practices that which are against the Vinaya rule. So Arahat Kirti or the Thakpa, he was very worried about the dharma or the teaching of the Vinaya, because these monks of the Vaishali monks are contaminating the teaching. So he wanted to do this purification work. So for that, he went many of the elderly monks, elderly arhats, just to verify what they are doing and how it is against the rule, how it is against the teaching. And he went each and every of those senior monks, senior arhats, and he just narrate them that these Vaishali monks are doing these things, these Vaishali monks are doing that things, and they which are against the Vinaya. And he verified with those senior monks, and they said, he also asked, if that is against the rule, where, at what time and where it was actually codified, or the way it was actually decided by the Buddha himself. This would, if they do something like that, that would be against the rule of the Vinaya. So after doing all this, after verifying all this with the senior arhats, then they come to the conclusion that we should do we should convene a council to specify the dispute of this 10th discipline point practiced by some monks in Vaishali, which is again the Vinaya. So in this way, they come to the decision that all these practices are faulty, against the rule of the Vinaya. So from then on, this practice should be stopped. And with these, in the second council, they actually purified the contaminations actually made by those Vaishali monks. And this is how the Buddha's, the second council, the purification of the false practices were done, and the patron of this council was the Emperor Ashoka. So there's some difference between the assertion of the Sthavirvada and the Mahayana tradition. Some there's a Kala Ashoka, they call it Kala Ashoka, not the Ashoka, but we call about the emperor, the Dharma Ashoka, something like that. So this is the second council where they purify the faulty practices of the Vaishali monks. And this is the second council. And after that, after the 400 years of the Buddha's demise, they again, now this is a different dispute within the monks. And because of that, under the patronage of the Emperor Kanishka of Jalandhar, in Jalandhar, they have a council, this a third council, actually, third council. So now here, from here, actually, the monks, the Buddhist monks, have divided into different schools, like 4 main schools, and after that, it had divided into 18, what we call it, Devajogya, 18 different schools of Buddhism. So it mainly actually come from the recitation of the Pratimoksha Sutra. Pratimoksha Sutra, they recite during the mostly twice in a month, like during the full moon day and the what to say, 30th day of the month, when the monks come together for the confession, So some monks and the monk community, actually, I should say that they reside in Sanskrit, and some reside in the Prakriti, and some reside in the Pishachi language, and some in the Abharanchi languages. So these are the 4 major languages that prevailed during that time in the Magadha area. Actually, we say that in the upper part, where mostly the Buddhism was prevalent that day, or on those days. So on this language basis, now they have divided into 4 main schools. So one is Mula Sarvastivada, the main school, and then one is Samatya, and then one is Mahasangika, and another one is Sthavirvada. So these are the 4 main schools, and from them, 18 different schools were emerged. And these schools are mainly divided due to the recitation of Pratimoksha Sutra in different languages. And these schools actually, the monk communities are from the different locations also. So now, so in order to pacify these disputes, and then they come together for the third council, and after verifying, after investigating, after analyzing all these recitations, all this, whatever the different schools are practicing, they came to the decision that with a little bit differences, all these are the true oral transmission of the Buddha's teaching. So in this way, all these 18 schools are considered, whether they follow the Sanskrit language, whether they follow the Prakriti language, whether they follow the Pishaji language, or whether they follow the Abhibrahmisha language, they are all authentic. And in this way, the dispute was specified. And from then on, it is said that then on, the documentation of the Buddha's teaching was begun. So this is the third concept of the Buddha's teaching. So then, compiled, and thus the teaching of the Buddha was compiled eventually and documented also. So in those days, and after many, the Nalanda University Library has collection of both the teachings of the Buddha as well as the works of the reputed Indian Buddhist masters were kept in the Nalanda University. So this is actually the ruin of the Nalanda Library. So it is said that this is like a more than 9-story library or something like that. And it is full of manuscripts of those days, not only the Buddha's teaching, but also the different works of the Indian masters, regardless of the subjects. And I think in Taranada's account, he said that it was burned for few months. And it's also there in the history of Guhya Samaja. Actually, they said that in the Guhya Samaja text was also there, and it after it was burning in the top of the store, in the top store, that the Guhya Samaj text was there, and when it's burning and Guhya Samaj text, from that it says that like it's written in the Buddha's Guhya Samaj history, saying that from that text the water emerges and then slowly the fire stopped at that time. So anyway, whatever it is, so this is the place where all these teachings were kept. And from here and many places, they just copy it, and it took to many different places in India, like what they in the Kashmir also, it took many copies. So this is how all the sources that we get for the translation of Kangyur and Tengyur was quite scattered from the Indian, mainly from Magadha area, and from Kashmir also, and from Bengal also. So this is how the source, what we are talking about, Kangyur and Tengyur, has come from. So the Nalanda University, in 13th century, the Nalanda was destroyed by a Muslim chieftain called Muhammad Bakhtiar Khalji. So this is some what you call the very sad events that took place at that time. This Bakhtiar Khalji, there is a railway station and a small railway station also, the Bakhtiarpur, nearby Nalanda. So this is named after him, but he is there's some kind of what do you call it, legend or story or whatever it is. At the time when he was in this Muslim chieftain, when he was in Bakhtiarpur or somewhere, he felt sick. He was sick. He was in a serious condition. And no one of his hakims, what they call it hakim in Urdu, for the doctor or for the, they could not actually cure him. And someone actually told him that there in Nalanda, in the university, and in the university, there are a lot of good doctors there. They may cure you. So he sent someone for him to, to invite, to ask a doctor from Nalanda University, and the Nalanda University doctors are almost all, they are monks, and they don't differentiate the patient, whether he is a Buddhist, whether he's a Hindu, or whether he is a Muslim or something like that. And with the full compassion, the doctor, he cured him, fully cured him. And this guy, he was so jealous about the knowledge of the Nalanda. And he said, how can be there someone who is more intelligent and more, how do you say, yeah, I don't get the words for that.
I think that's about internet connections. Let me check with you now.
Kind of low. Hello. Can you hear me?
Oh, the calls killer. Tibet this chess.
Ale, sorry.
Oh, yeah,
and one another kind of story behind it is that since Nalanda University is quite large, and there are a lot of monks, the students are studying there, and it has a very large compound there. And this Bhaktiar Khilji, he doesn't know that this is a university, but he thought it is a kind of army camp or something, that they may attack him. So that is in the with this doubt and with this he is scared about it, and then he sent his army to destroy the Nalanda, something like that. There's two different versions of that. Whatever it is I cannot actually decide which is the right or which is the wrong, but these two versions are coming up in the literatures. So this is the main source of our Kangyur and Tengyur. These are the places. These are the main origin is the first council, where the Buddha, where the Kashyapa and all the Arhats, they have compiled all the Buddha's teaching in three baskets of Tripitaka, in the form of Tripitaka. And another one, the second council. At that time, second council, they purified the wrong practices. And in the third council, they specify all the disputes. Disputes due to the due to the practice of the different languages on when the study or the recitation of the sutras of the Buddha. So this is the background or the source of our Kangyur and Tengyur. So now then how it come to Tibet. So this is, now we have to link it. So in 7th century, the Tibetan king Songtsen Gampo, he was the first one actually. He devised, asked his minister Thimisambota to devise a Tibetan script for the Tibetan language. And it was said that before that, in 7th century, before that, there was no different script for Tibetan language, which can be written what you want to, say. The reason behind it is that Songtsen Gampo became very powerful king those days, and he actually conquered many areas near which border to Tibet, and those kings, they usually sent some presents or gifts to the Songtsen Gampo, and along with the gifts, they also sent some letters to him. So now, Songtsen Gampo doesn't have a letter as a script that he can write a letter to them and reply to their letters. Thus, he sent some young Tibetans to India to learn Sanskrit or learn the language of that time, and also grammar, whatever of those days. And after sending them, the Timisam Buddha come along with some other come back, and he devised the Tibetan script based on the Gupta script of those days of the 6th or 7th century that prevalent in India. In India, actually, if I refer to India, it means mostly in the Magadha area and the upper part of northern India, not the South India. So this is the Tibetan letter, and that is the script of those days in the Magadha, what they call the Gupta script, what they call it, and also it's also called the Lichavi script. Lichavi, the later Lichavis are ruling the northern India of those days, like Bihar, UP area, and then to the lower part of Nepal, something like that. So it is also they call it this Lichavi script in some other texts. So these are very similar. You can see that very similar to each other, and this is how once in the Gidunchembe, he narrates in his text talking about how Tibetan scripts were what's the base of the Tibetan scripts. So once he said that once he was when he was in India, and he was traveling to Lucknow, and Lucknow with some of the scholars of those days, and one scholar they came across the inscription by a king called Surya Varma or something. And at that time, Gindin Chimbe could read some of the words there in the inscription. And the other scholars, they just laughing at him. We are studying this script for many years, and we could not decipher what actually it is written there. How can you read it? Because just seeing it right away. And then Gindin replied to them that this is the base of our script. Any Tibetan who could read a little bit of Tibetan letter, they can actually read it. So this is how he verified or authenticates that the Buddha script is the base of Tibetan script. And now I don't know whether we should go to this kind of discussion. Actually, this is an interesting one. A debate of devising letters za 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 and cha cha cha. So, in this, when it is in the history books, it is said that Timisam Buddha actually devised cha cha ja which is not available in the Sanskrit alphabets. What it actually means there, what they say that. And za za za, it is available. It is actually exists in Sanskrit alphabets. So when you, I think many of you are reciting sometimes maybe, or you may heard or you saw reciting the purification of the word, or what is a voice or something like that. And when they recite the kaka ganga cha 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 cha, yeah, cha cha, they don't say that cha 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 na there. So that is how it says that cha 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 and cha cha cha. Cha 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 is actually devised by Timisambhutta, which is not in the Indian alphabets. But cha 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 is also there, and za 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 is also there. All these two are different in the pronunciation, but different part of the India. So that is how it's a long, but we can, when we see Kangyur and Tengyur translation, every time they use za, za, for cha cha ja in Sanskrit alphabet. You can say chakra or chakra, right? Kala chakra, they use za, not ja. So this, but the pronounce the ja is also pronounced in a northern part of India, like in Varanasi, this area they pronounce ja. So this is a big different issue of this devising of Tibetan script by Timisambhutta, and later the grammarians have some kind of debates on this issue. Anyway, Timisambhutta, he devised the Tibetan script, as well as he translated some of the Sanskrit text into Tibetan, and he is regarded as the first translator of Tibet. So now, this one, scripts added for the transliteration. So now, in Sanskrit alphabets, these are gha, ka, ka, ga, ga. The fourth, there are five in one part. So these letters are actually devised for Tibetan to transliterate the Sanskrit words into Tibetan. So these are not actually, these are not a Tibetan, according to the Tibetan language, we don't have these alphabets in Tibetan. But in order to translate it, in the later period, not in the early period, in the later period, the translator have added these things to the Tibetan. But when we, in the Tibetan alphabet, we have only 30 consonants. And in that consonants, they don't have these letters. But these letters are very important. We need it. Why? Because to transliterate some of these mantras also, we need all this. But when we go back to the Tumha manuscripts of the 9th or the 10th century, we find when for ga, we don't have this, oh, saying there, can you hear me? Okay, so this gha and this ja are not there. Instead, they use like in a prefix and suffix to get the sound of that letter, like oh ja, something like that. So these letters are we should know that these letters are not a Tibetan letter. They are devised just to transliterate the Sanskrit words, Sanskrit mantras. So this is how the Tibetan script and the first translator of the Sanskrit, the Timbisambutta, came in. And then now we are coming to the main portion of the translation, history of the translation, that during the Tizung Deuzen, now Tizung Deuzen, King Tizung Deuzen, Emperor Tizung Deuzen, he invited Acharya Shantarakshita and Padmasambhava to Tibet. We all know that. And when Acharya Shantarakshita was invited to Tibet, and he started teaching Tibetans about the 10 wholesome deeds and all those things, and bodhicittas and bodhis and shunyata and all those things. The Tibetans could not grab it. They just felt that this is something useless or something like that, and they could not actually. Shantarakshita, the first time, he could not actually read the mind of the Tibetans at that time. And the Tibetans are very, very tough at those days. And Shantarakshita thought these Tibetans can be actually pacified with some kind of miracle. If we show some miracles to them, then they may actually they can be tamed. What I should say that. I could say that. And then he suggested the king, the emperor, to invite the Padmasambhava to Tibet. And Guru Rinpoche came, and with his magical power, with his these miracle, then Tibetans thought that, okay, these teachings has also some kind of power that can be achieved. So with this, in this way, the Tibetans actually turn into the believing in the Buddhist teaching, and slowly, and then eventually, but Acharya Shantarakshita and Acharya Padmasambhava, they ordained 7 Tibetan young children into the monkhood of Buddhist monk. They made Buddhist monk. And then he built Samya Monastery. So this is Samya Monastery. I think many of you have saw this. So building the Samya Monastery has a big kind of a very interesting story also. And then it is the design of the Samya monasteries is on based on the structure of the world. Actually, they say that it is built on, and it is based on the structure of Odantapuri monastery in Bihar, right now in Bihar, which is what at present what they call it. The place is called Bihar Sharif. So there is an Odantapuri monastery, and the Acharya Shantarakshita actually suggested to build like an Odantapuri monastery, which is based with the design of that is based on the world itself, saying that there are like 4 continents, 8 subcontinents, and something like that, you know. And so and then eventually the Tibetans, in that Samya monastery, there are four main departments, actually, I can call it four main departments, that they are called as an island of the discipline and island of the Indian island of translation and island of the meditation, the unshakable, what they call it, and the white lotus, the treasure island. So these are the four main departments established in Samya monastery. So now here, when you see that, the Yur Jagarling, or the Indian island of translation. So here, in this department, they started translating Buddhist texts into Tibetan. And the Myo Samdenling, in the island of the meditation, the unshakable meditation, there it started practicing the meditation, and they are taught. They are, they teach us the method of meditation there. So these two are the main departments of the education, actually, I can say that. But in the Myo Samdenling also, in Myo Samdenling, in the island of the meditation, the unshakable, there many Chinese monks, like Mahayana and all those, also invited there, and they also stay there for meditation. And in that course of time, Acharya Shandarakshita observed that some of the Chinese meditators, they are just observing or just doing the meditation and they avoid, or they don't care about the wisdom part. So this is how the Samya debate came into Samya debate rises. This Samya debate, they happened in that during the time of Tizon Deusen, actually, in the 9th century. So Acharya Shandarakshita, he observed that, okay, something in the future, something wrong would be happen because they don't practice the method part. They are just on the wisdom part. So this is not the right part. The right thing, wisdom and method should go along together in the parallel way. So that's why this is a wrong method to meditate. So before his death, he advised the king, something would happen in the future. If it happens, you just called Kamalshila, my disciple, to Tibet and pacify, purify such unwanted things would happen. So this is, and then Kamalshila came later and they have debate, and then Kamalshila, it is said Kamalshila defeated. It's a very long story after that. But these Mahayana Chinese monks, they are they are the disciples of the followers of the Chan. I mean, what the Chan is of dhyana from the Bodhidharma, actually, in 5th century that came to China. So that is one part of that Samye monastery. And then, as I said, seven young Tibetans were ordained into the monkhood and studied Sanskrit. So this is how the development of the translation of the Kangyur and Tengyur began in Tibet, and in a larger scale. And then before I mean, before beginning and the translation in the major scale, many Indian scholars, Panditas, and the Tibetan translators, they came together and they just compiled two dictionaries, bilingual dictionaries. One is Cheta Tokje Chemo, what is called Mahavitpati, and another is Dajul Pambunyiba. Dajul Pambunyiba is the middle, smaller dictionary of Sanskrit and Tibetan, Sanskrit to Tibetan. As Cheta Tokje Chemo is also Sanskrit to Tibetan. So they actually all they came together and they compiled and created many equivalent words for the Sanskrit words. Each and every Sanskrit word they tried to make a equivalent Tibetan word, because those days in Tibet they have to create a new word according to the Sanskrit words. So that's how they have created these two dictionary. So this one, sorry. This is the what I just Cheta Tokje Chemo, the first dictionary of Sanskrit Tibetan. So this is on this book there are many works have been done, but by Soma Digores also compiled this and also translated some, have equivalent translation of English also given, and many other scholars have done that. This is my version actually. I have done this for now like 4 or 5 years. I was working on this one, so this may come very soon. And this is the first dictionary that Tibetan scholars and the Indian masters compiled together. Okay, so this one. So now, then now real challenge had come after that. In Tajur Bambunyiba, they have codified, actually codification, codify the work of the translation. They have just make a rule that how it should be translated and what should not be translated, and what is the procedure for the translation, and they have codified it. Earlier, during the reign of Acharya Bodhisattva, in that now I'm quoting the Dajul Pambunyiba, that earlier during the reign of Acharya Bodhisattva, Yeshebongbu, Shang Gyal Ni Nyasang, Tamse Ananda, and so forth have translated many such words which are not prevalent in Tibetan language. From among them, many words are not in accordance with the scripture and also does not go with the rules of the grammar. Therefore, it is inevitable to make corrections. So this is after Trisong Dilsen. This happened during the time of Trisong Dilsen's son. So they thought they found many words which are not actually prevalent in Tibetan language, also which are not comfortable in Tibetan language, and also there are some something that which is not according to the grammar, and that gives you a different meaning. So in this way, they thought that it is inevitable to make corrections. And the translation should carry the right meaning of the text, and it should be in accordance of the nature of the Tibetan language. Now, here says there's sometimes when we do translations, if we translate the style of language in that original language, then target language becomes kind of a different language. It happens sometimes when some translators do that from Tibetan to English, from English to Tibetan. Then when they translate the Tibetan to English, English to Tibetan, then that Tibetan language is not a Tibetan language. It doesn't look like a Tibetan language, but it looks like some different language. So this is why they said it should be in the nature of a Tibetan language. How Tibetan language is, what is the nature of the Tibetan language, how it is spoken, what is the structure of this the sentence of the Tibetan language should be followed in order to understand the right meaning of the text. So, and another one, this is a codification, that if translation does not affect the meaning of the text, then one can do the literal translation with no changes in the order of the Sanskrit word in the sentence or in a verse. So there are some instances, most of the Tibetan translations are that it is very literal translation. And some sentences we can find that each and every word which is in order in Sanskrit, you will find that same order in the Tibetan translation that I will show you in the next couple of slide. This is one thing. If the translation become more effective by changing the order of the word in the original text, then it would be more conducive to translate by changing the order of the word. So if you are translating without changing the order of the word in Sanskrit into Tibetan, and it doesn't give you the right meaning, or it makes you more confusion, then it says that you should change the order of the Sanskrit text, order of the words, in order to make more clear translation, which gives you more clear meaning of that text. So these are the two way of translation that the translator should follow at that time. And also that when you are translating a word, you can translate changing the order of the word if it expresses the meaning of the text correctly. So in Sanskrit, as you know, that they use this chanda, the meter. So according to meter, they can one word, they can use the words in any of these 4 lines, but due to the meter, they can understand how it should be, expressed in the right meaning, express the right meaning there. So in Tibetan, it's different. So if it is difficult to get the real meaning of that verse by not changing the order of the words, you should change the order and make it more reader friendly, or that express the meaning of the words more clearly. So now, and if one word carries many synonyms, one should be careful with the context and translate it. So here, so in Sanskrit words, some of the words have many synonyms. For example, like, Padma. For the lotus, they have many synonyms, like a Jalaj, like a Pangaj. And Pangaj, it carries a different, and also sometimes they have like, some words in the different contexts, it carries a different meaning. So if something like comes there, you should be very careful with the context of the text and do the translation. So these are the decrees actually made by the emperor with the Tibetan translators and the Indian masters. They all came together and they made this decree how a translator should be, how a translator should do the translation. If there is no great reason, then one should not translate those words which carries different meaning. It would not more reasonable. I would not more reasonable to leave it as it is. So this also says that if some words, it carries different meaning. I mean, some, for example, like, kusha, for example. So if that word carries a different meaning and it confuses you if you translate that, then says that you just better keep it as it is. In Sanskrit word, don't just mess up with that. Then it will give you the right meaning. And here, it also said that translating the name of a tree, place, people, flower would create confusion. Therefore, it is better to leave it as it is. However, if you translate, you should add before the word such as plant called, a tree called, a person called, a place called, something like. For example, Shing Niagroda, Meto Chambaka, Chakalambika, Chongbe Krishna, something like that. These words should be added before the translation. Otherwise, like, I said Shing Niagroda. So here Niagroda, the Shing means a tree called Niagroda, Metal Chambaka, a flower called Chambaka, Chakalandika, a Kalandika called a bird called Kalandika, something like that. Every time, if you are translating some kind of name of the tree, name of a place, name of a people, name of a flower, or any kind of object, you should always add these words before that, whatever kind of that object is. And then translate the number accordingly as it is used in Tibetan language. Do not translate them in a literal way, which may become hard to understand. So here, but many of the translators did not follow this. We can find it in the Tibetan translations now. What it says that, what the decree says that the number should be translated as in the Tibetan language. How? Let's say Gyadang Abju, Chekdong Abgyatamba. But what they did is Gelong Gyata Chedang Chusum. So this makes you sometimes confusion when you do some translations, So actually what say that Gelong Gyata Chedang Chusum is Gelong. If we translate the number of gelongs, let's half from 1,300,000. So if you do the literal translation, so it says that you don't do that. Just do as you use in Tibetan language, like Dong Nijangaju, 250,000, that's it. But our translators, early translators did not follow this decree in many times. When you say that, when you recite Kangyur, Digata Tibetan something like that, and many times the number is confusing. It confuses you. What is the right number? I don't understand that. So if you do the literal translation of the way of the number that is used in Sanskrit, you should not do that. It is one of the degree in Dajjal Pampaniva. And also says use honorific words for the Buddha, Bodhisattvas, and Shravakas. So whenever you use translate, we never say that in Tibetan there's honorific words. So when you say with the Buddha, Chomden Degi Sungba, we don't say Chomden Degi Sheba. Sheba is not honorific word, which is something like you can use with the general people. So whenever something like that, Bodhisattva and Shrava comes there, you should always use honorific words with them. That is one of the degree. Follow the translation method established during the reign of my father. Now he says, Tizung Dilsen on translation. So he said that the Mahamegha Sutra, Langavada Sutra were already translated during the time of Tizung Dilsen. So he said, they said in the degree, follow the translation pattern, which was followed during the Tizung Dilsen's time on translating Mahamegha Sutra and Langavada Sutra. So this is one of the degree. Follow the instructions given in degree. No one is allowed to. So it is now summing up this degree that you should follow the instruction, whatever given in the degree, and no one is allowed to develop a new Sanskrit equivalent word until and unless one gets permission from the editorial board. So now, translating the Tibetan, translating the Kangyur and Tengyur, there was an editorial board also. And one more thing, that only one individual cannot translate a text at that time. Every single time, whatever you are doing, translating a Tibetan Sanskrit text, there should be one Sanskrit scholar, or the Buddhist scholar, with the Tibetan translator, and this Sanskrit scholar act as the subject experts as well as the language experts, or the Sanskrit language experts. So after doing the translation, and then okay, so if when you are translating, and if you find a word, new word there, and you are creating an equivalent word for that Sanskrit word in Tibetan, first you should submit that to the editorial board. I came across with this word, and this word is not in our dictionary. I am just creating the new equivalent to this. Is it permissible? Is it okay that if I use that in my translation? Once the editorial board permits that word can be used, then you can use it. Otherwise, you cannot use it freely by yourself as you wish. That this is one of the major factor why Tibetan translations are very uniform. This is one of the main reasons I can. If a translator wants to develop new equivalent Tibetan words for the Sanskrit, one should develop that do not violate the grammar rule and must submit that to the editorial board. So this is the these are the degrees, the codification of the translation of that in the 9th century. Once you get permission from the editorial board, add the word in the dictionary for a uniform translation. So it is also said that they are very particular in those days that translation should be very, they are, strict on this, on the method of translation, that once you get to use the word from the editorial board, then you should add that particular word to the dictionary so that everybody can use it in the future for the uniform translation. So this is one of the very important. So in the modern time now, once I think in 2007 in Varanasi, we have a Kangyur translation seminar. That is translation into English, right? English. And we are talking about this, this kind of method should be adopted for the translation into English also, but many scholars they don't accept it. That is a very big. So that's why actually in English translation also we can find many different words for the different how to say for the same Tibetan word we find many different English words now. So that is also a little confusing. So this is one of the very important issue of that time. And then it comes to the Tantra. When they say, since Tantra is practiced sacredly, no permission is granted to any translator unless they receive permission from the practitioner and Tantric master. So this is to authenticate the Tantra text, whether the Tantra text is a Buddhist text or a non-Buddhist text. This is also an issue behind this one. And also, in some reason behind this is that some persons take the word meaning, direct meaning of the word and wrongly practice it. So the Tantra words are, it doesn't actually, it doesn't give you the facial meaning of the word. It always something behind that word. That is the reason why many people give wrong, interpretation of that words and practice wrongly. That's why it was very strict in the early spread of Buddhism and the translation during the 9th century, 8th, 9th century, that if you are going to translate a tantric text, you should get a permission from them. Otherwise, you are not allowed to translate. So therefore, translation of tantric texts were very strictly followed during the early spread of Buddhism in Tibet. So this is, and when we analyze the number of texts, of tantric texts translated in the early spread of Buddhism Tibet and the later spread of Buddhism Tibet, it is like 10% to 90%. You can find it totally. That is because after the later spread, there is no one power just monitor the translation or monitor as it was exist in early spread of Buddhism. So that is the main reason behind that. So as I already told you, that mandatory to translate text as a team with the Indian scholar, with the Tibetan translator. Indian scholars act as a subject, as a language expert, whereas Tibetan translator acts as an expert in translation to the target language. Without the teamwork, it is not considered as an authentic translation. So if an individual translation is there, they always have some doubt on that. They always, because this is not a teamwork, at least there is no there is not one Indian translator involved in that translation. So that is important. So this is very important also. So now, the way of translation of the meaning, direct translation, transliteration, script added to the transliteration, it's all. Now, this is one of the example I'm going to give you right now. So here we have the Tibetan Sanskrit with the Tibetan translation. This translation is just a meaning from this Sanskrit words. The translation is translated according to the meaning of that verse, not as a literal translation. As I told earlier, that in the Tibetan translation, the order of the Sanskrit word is totally changed. It is already changed. The essence of the Supreme Body, speech and mind are the sacred, and all Tathagatas. Buddha, please teach us the Supreme Bodhicitta. So here, first one, Bhashasva. Bhashasva is in Sanskrit, is please tell or please teach. Bhagavan is Chomdende. Here in Tibetan, it's in the last one. Bhashasva Bhagavan Saram. So now Saram means Nyingbo. So Nyingbo Kusung Tucho. Now here, so it is not a literal translation. It is a translation of the words that gives you the best of the meaning. So Nyingbo Kusung Tucho ni Tishin Shava Kunji Sang Lana Mebe Chanju Sem Jomden Degi Shedo Se. So Jomden Degi Shedo Se. This last line here is in the first line, in the first 4 letters. And then Nyingbo means Sara, Kai Wagichit Uttam is Kusung Tu Cho. Sarvatata Guhyam Tijinsha Vakunjisam. So Sarvatata Gadam is Tijinsha Vakun Ki. Guhyam means Sangwa, Sang. Bodhicit Uttara Bodhicittam Anutaram. Lanameva Chanjusem. Anutaram means Lanameva Chanjusem Bodhicitta. So it is totally mixed up, in the translation. So this is a different one, right? And then if you go to direct translation, you will find this here. Aho samandabhadrasya kaya vagachitta vajrinaha anutpada prayogen utpade ayam pragiyate. So here, Tibetan is totally same. Here, like emaho, aho is emaho. In Sanskrit, it is aho. In Tibetan, is emaho. Samandabhadrasya kundu sangbun yi. Samandabhadrasya means kundu sangbo yi. Kai wakichit vajrina ku sung tu dojechen. So kai is ku, wak is sung, chit is tu, vajrina is dojechen. So there is no change in the order of the words. Just translated as same in the same sequel. Kyawa meba, anutpada. This is kyawa meba. Prayogen, Prayogen means jorwa yi. Utpade ayam kyawa dini. Utpade kyawa ayam dini rabdutak pragiyate. So this is a one type of translation. So one thing you can say, this kind of translation, from there, once in Varanasi, now one of our friends, Lobsang Shastri, he worked the restoration and the retranslating this Tibetan text into Sanskrit, into its original form. There's a Chando Ratnakar, is a text on meters. So he translated that into Sanskrit back to its original form. And once, I don't know whether you guys know that name of Professor Han from Hamburg University. He was a very a great Oriental scholar. So he saw that, and he got an original text from Nepal. So when he compared those two together, he was amazed at how it can be, because the retranslation to Sanskrit and original, just one or two words, everything is the same as written by the author. So this is how Tibetan language is too close to Sanskrit. So this is one of the example for that. Okay. And then transliteration here: Padma, Ganga, Chandan, Kalavinga. So as I told you before, that these, every Sanskrit and a Sanskrit word or a Hindi word, whatever we can say, we can translate it into Tibetan script. So all the mantras are transliteration. It's not translation. It is a transliteration of that mantra of the Tibetan text, right? So this is how I told you that these are the texts, that these are the syllables, or the alphabet syllables, which are these are the alphabets, which are letters, which are devised for transliteration from Sanskrit to Tibetan. So if we follow this rule, then our transliteration would be very, very uniform. There won't be any difference in the, whoever do it. It is that transliteration would be very uniform. Just okay, so I'm okay. Now, then in the until 13th century, there's in 13th century there are some little works on translating of the Tibetan Sanskrit works into Tibetan, but it was almost stopped there. Almost stopped there. There was no more. And then at that time, Chomde Rigbe Realty, Uber Losel, and Gyarung Chanju Bum, they actually compiled all the Kangyur and Tengyur translations exist in Tibet. And there are two early catalogs that had been catalogs prepared during the reign of Trizong Delzin and his son. And whatever listed in those catalogs and the later translations, which are not cataloged in those listed on those catalogs, all the translated works, they have whatever the copies they get it, they just collected all those things, whatever they available in the Wizang area and the area, they gather all together, and basis on those translation of this Kangyur and Tengyur, they made a collection of the Kangyur and Tengyur, and they copied all this and then written in the written form. And actually, they are just copied all those, and they made a total a collection of the Kangyur and Tengyur in 13th century. There are many translations and texts everywhere, but most of them are scattered and they are not in the systematic way. But Chomde Rigbe Reddy and Upaloset and the Gyarung Chanjupum, they all together, they really worked very hard to get those available texts together, compiled, and then we got that collection of Kangyur and Tengyur in a one shape. And later, these Kangyur and Tengyur, and then started block printing. And the first block print was the Chinese Emperor Yonglo that Kangyur. Now I will show them together. Yes, here. So this is the Yonglo Kangyur, the copy of the Yonglo Kangyur of Chinese, and this is the first page of the text. So you don't find in the site later in the site. Chinese printing, they have in the side they have the Chinese letters on the side of that text. So it is not visible here, but the Yonglo, this is the first one who actually made the block for the Kangyur and Tengyur, and this is one of the east. And then Narthang. So Narthang Kangyur was in the 18th century. So we have now all these are scanned and documented here, Narthang, Kangyur, and Tengyur. Then we have this Chinese, this is Peking Tengyur, Peking in the 18th century, 724 to 1736. During that time, they have actually made the print. And then Derge, this is one of the famous one now. Derge Tengyur, like Sidhu, the editor of that, this Derge Tengyur is and the one of the Sidhus of that time in the 18th century, you know. When we compare on the collate these different versions of the different editions of the Kangyur and Tengyur, this Derge Tengyur is this Derge Tengyur has we find it more like refined in the sense of Tibetan language, and in the sense of, but in Narthang and other, they still use some of the words in the old way of Tibetan, like in the Tata. The prefix and subprefix, suffix of the suffix and subsuffix. There's ta. I think if you are studying Tibetan language, you know that tata. So they still use those things, and also some in some of those that mayata in here just makugumi, but in other versions they have editions some mayata and kigu ni. This is the old way of writing the Tibetan mi. So you will find those things, those are different also. So this is a very refined one. And then the Chone, Kangyur and Tengyur. So Chone is from Amdo side. Chone King Maxwell Gombo in 18th century. So these are the major Tibetan actually. Oh, now it's, I talk too much, sorry. Yeah, so these are, they are like, you know, Kangyur in Yunglo Kangyur, and now mostly the scholars actually, when they do some research, they use Kangyur Lhasa and Dege Kangyur Tengyur, Chone Kangyur Tengyur, Nadang Kangyur Tengyur, and Peking, and these are the main 4 editions of the Tibetan Kangyur and Tengyur, and they, based on these, they do that research, and they use these different editions for their research. So this is how that the Tibetan translations of the Kangyur and Tengyur come into being. And as I told earlier, that these Kangyur and Tengyur are not just a creation of Tibetan people, but it goes back to the first council, Buddhist council, just after the demise of Buddha. From then on, it is coming up to Nalanda. Then in the Nalanda, they have preserved it. And also many of the copies are in the Kashmir side, and many of the copies are in the how to say, the Bengal side, in the eastern side of the Magadha. And some of when also, yeah, when they do in the early days, when they did the translations, they have 2 or 3 copies of the text. Some Kashmiri text, from Magadha's text, Bengali text. They collate all these three texts together, then they do the translations. So during the copying the text, there may be some kind of the scribe errors, So in order to make it more authentic, they just collate, they just compare all those different editions, different handwritings. Then they come to one conclusion that this is the right word for this sentence. This word will gives the right meaning here. So in this way, when we read the colophons of the Tibetan Kangyur and Tengyur, you will find that Nyogepela Tukde any Gyurvas means I have compiled and based this translation to the Nyog, means in the eastern side of the Magadha, and also Kashmiri Kajepe. When the Kajepela means Kashmiri copy, I also consider this with the Kashmiri copy, and then we decided this one and translated this one. These things, it happens. Okay. So now, at the end, why this Kangyur and Tengyur? So it is the first of all, as a Buddhist, I would say that it contains the teaching to attain enlightenment. So both Kangyur and Tengyur, they are this, and it teaches the true nature of the phenomena. So when you study Buddha's teaching, when you study the Tengyur in the masters, so you know that it is the works of the Indian masters are actually the commentary to the Buddha's teaching, which are not clear to the people. They made it more clear, and then they wrote those texts. So it teaches the true nature of the phenomena. So what is the benefit if we understand the true nature of the phenomena? Then once we understand the true nature of the phenomena, then we don't attach to these. So this is kind of, I'm not going to say something like, Dharma teaching, but actually it is there. This is the real thing it contains. And it contains all the 5 sciences of knowledge, like craft, medicine, grammar and literature, logic, and inner science, philosophy. So these are just all these are actually contained in the Kangyur as well as the Tengyur. And Kangyur, actually, we say that 3, like, it teaches you, and 3 different Pitakas teaches in the 3 different ways. One is discipline, one is the meditation, one is the wisdom. All these are together, and that's why it's very, very valuable for the not only from the how to say historical point or the archaeological point of that of the text, but it contains all those things that leads you to a happy life. That is the most important thing that conveys these meanings in the Kangyur and Tengyur. So as a result of the translation of those together, it's like 103 volumes of Kangyur. It's according to Derke, a little bit different in the number of the volumes in Khasa Kangyur, Dege Kangyur, Nardan Kangyur. They have 1 or 2 volumes ups and down, but based on the Derge Tengyur, it is like 103 volumes of Kangyur and 213 volumes of Tengyur. That includes the 1 volumes of the catalog of that collection. So, right. So this is the last thing I have to say. I hope that my talk would be a little benefit. I don't know whether it's beneficial or not, but I'm really thankful to Geshe-la to give me this opportunity, and also thank you all just to bearing me to this almost 2 hours now. And sorry for this. I spoiled your weekend now. I think so. Okay, so this is thing what I have to say, and thank you very much. And lastly, the Serame Monastic University, Balukobi. This is my source of energy, my source of knowledge, and I also thank this monastery, and I owe too much to this monastery. Thank you so much. Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you so much, Gela. We learned so many things. And then just clarify that I try to send the text, the 10 that misunderstand about the second council. And have a troubling here. Please let me know if you want complete. And if you have a Pema Karpo translation dictionary, I get it from there. So, and then we have a few minutes here. So then maybe I'm giving some opportunity question for audience. Before that, I want to ask Gela here, the translator, we call Jigden Mik as a Tibetan, Lozawa. So as when I hear that, and then when I translate to hearing this word, Jigden Mik, it's so scary to me, because the eyes of world, right? The worldly eyes of worlds. When eyes getting damaged, the whole world is dark. So therefore, if you're mistaking our own translation, then I think it's mistaking everything's ruining people's life or their goal. So this is very important for me. And Gela, how you think why we call Osawa as a Jigden Mik?
Yeah, Jigden Mik is a translation of Sanskrit word Lok Chakshu. So Lok Chakshu. So Lok Chakshu means the Lok is the Jigden and the Mik is the, Chakshu means the eye. So it actually opened the eye to the world, what the Buddha said, what the Indian master says, actually want to convey the teaching of the Buddha to the world. So once they actually, that is for Tibetan, actually, for example, if I take as a Tibetan translator, before Buddhism came to Tibet, Tibet was in the darkness, just spending the time to killing and to conquering other countries, other kingdoms. But once Buddhism came to Tibet, and once these Lok Chakshus or the Lozawas, the eye of the world, opened the teaching of the Buddha to the people of Tibet, I cannot say that they're totally pacified, but most of the Tibetans in their heart have some kind of warmness and kindness and compassion. That is it actually put the seed in their, how to say, in their heart or in their mind, that they should be, the people should be more compassionate, more peaceful, more not doing harmful things. And this is how Tibetans become very peaceful. Tibetans become, follow the Buddha's teaching. And why? Because due to these Lok Chakshus, they came to know that they have these kind of materials before them, that they can learn it, that they can practice it, and they can become more compassionate people. I think so. That is the reason behind that.
Thank you, Gela. And then giving whoever have a question, please raise your hand or you can unmute it by yourself.
Geshe-la?
Yes, Laura.
Hi, I have a question. These three councils of Arhats, are the Arhats living among ordinary beings when these councils are going on? Are there ordinary beings there as well?
Yeah. Honest beings are there, like, the king himself was the patron of that council, and he was also present at that time. And many, they more emphasize on the arahats because they are the people who actually remember all the teachings of Buddha, and they can verify whoever is compiling or whoever is reciting that the Buddha's teaching or sutra, they can verify it. But in the same time, there are also the monks who did not attain the arhats. So there are it's not only the arhats, there are the common people, ordinary people also present at that time. But in the most of the texts, as I told you before, I think if you remember that in the Vinaya text, in the volume Tha, Vinaya volume Tha of Kangyur, these first two councils has very detailed documentation and very detailed, they have mentioned very detailed there. So that is one thing I have to say here that this kind of Vinaya things are not allowed for the lay people to discuss on those things. Actually, one thing is that they have anyway. But when you read that, maybe I don't know whether there's a translation of that volume or not. But if you have a translation, or you can read with some teacher, it is very well documented there. First and second one, and third one is not documented in the Vinaya. So there, who said to whom, what is said, what is the reason, everything, who went to whom, everything is there. So yeah, there are not only the arahats, but also the ordinary people are there.
I see. Thank you.
Welcome.
We have two more questions. If it's okay for Gela, it's not too late for you.
Yeah, it's okay. But if I know, I can answer it. If I don't know, then I say sorry.
I think these two questions will be the last. So Janine, go ahead, please.
Yes, hi. So thank you so much for your explanations. They're very, very helpful. My question is, you mentioned that some Tibetan texts were translated directly, like word for word, and others were more the meaning. First of all, is there a way to distinguish which approach was taken? And then the second aspect is, if it was not a word for word translation, is it possible to be sure that the meaning was properly conveyed in the Tibetan? So that's my question.
Yeah. The priority of the translation from Sanskrit to Tibetan is given for the literal translation, word-to-word translation. It was given, and many of the texts, when we read that, you can find, there is no change in order of the words in the Sanskrit to Tibetan. But when there is something that there is no other way unless we should change the order of the word, and to give the right meaning. Then they did that. When we are doing it in Varanasi, when we are also we did, we have a team there. When we read the available Sanskrit text with the Tibetan, and when they compare the two, we find some of, as you said, there are some translations which have already changed the order of the word into Tibetan. But whatever word exists in the Sanskrit sentence, every word is also exists in the Tibetan translation. Though that order of the word is changed, but there is no missing word actually in Tibetan, which exists in the Sanskrit. So that is one of the, the quality of Tibetan language, which is close to the Sanskrit. And one thing I should mention here, that in translation of the Kangyur, the translators have developed a procedure that they have, when you read that, Pambo, Tangbo, Pambo, Niba, Pambo, Sumba, something like that, right? So each Pambo, this is the count of the words of that teaching of the word. So why this Pambo is developed? In order to prevent any extra words it may be added to the translation. So this Pambo is actually say that in one verse there are 32 words, and that goes of so anyway, they have a system that no additional word can be added to the translation, and which means that they have very, very strict in this one, that no word should be added to the Buddha's teaching. And in the Tengyur, in the translation of the Indian master's text, there is no Pambo, only for Buddha's teaching. So this is also one of the important system that has developed by the Tibetan and the Indian scholars of that time. Lazarus.
Thank you. Please, Nerala.
Hello, thank you, first of all, for this very interesting, fascinating talk. And I have a doubt. I don't understand very, very well. Could you clarify? I understand the script for Tibetan, when it was necessary, was taken from Sanskrit. But one thing is to take a script from another language. Another thing is to put a grammar of a foreign language onto a language that, although not written, is already spoken. So that relationship is not very clear to me. Is Tibetan grammar the same as Sanskrit? And then in the codification of the translation, you mentioned that words could be changed if it was not in accord to Tibetan grammar. So this is not very clear for me.
Okay.
What is taken from Sanskrit and what is original Tibetan?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. The first, when in Tibet, there was no written form at that time in 7th century. So the king sent some young students to India to learn the Sanskrit language there. And when they learned Sanskrit and they are well versed in Sanskrit there, when they came back, now they have to devise or develop a Tibetan script according to the Tibetan language. So for that, they have based the script based on the Gupta script of that time. And after developing the Tibetan scripts, the Thumisam Buddha, the founder of the Tibetan script, he wrote 8 different Tibetan grammar. So in the due course of time, we have only 2 of them right now, what we call it Sumjupa and Tagju. So now grammar here, actually, you see, which is not according to the grammar, means that Sanskrit grammar. So here, if I give an example to you, in Sanskrit, Evam Maya Shuratam, Ekasmin Samaye Bhagwan Rajgrihe, something like that. Every sentence, Rajgrihe, Gritakute, like that. And in that, they use the, what do you say, Namya Dimba, right? But in Tibetan, we cannot use all the Namya Dimba to all the words. If you do that, and then you will, lost your meaning there. Something like that, right? When he said that, then it doesn't match there. So we should be very careful with matching the grammar according to Tibetan and according to Sanskrit. So is it clear now?
So, Tonmi Sambota, the Lekshe the Tajuk.
Yes, yes.
It's a middle link between the Sanskrit and the Tibetan language.
Sorry?
That was used orally. Could we say that the Lekshe Wang and the Tajuk, then what Tonmi Sambota did was use some of the Sanskrit, but then adapt it to what was spoken in Tibet?
Yeah, Lekshe Jongwa actually is not written by Thumisam Buddha.
Okay. It's the Sunchupa.
Yeah, Sumjupa and Tagju is written by Thumisam Buddha. And there is a very similarity between Sanskrit and Tibetan. And some of the Namyas are very similar. For example, when we talk about the Namya Shiva, Gweche, 4th one. And when we give an example, Sangye Lacha Selo, right? And in Sanskrit also, same. So there is no difference there. And there is very similarity. But if we apply all the Sanskrit grammar to Tibetan, then it is not possible.
Okay, so we can say there is a Tibetan grammar.
Yes. So it's same. Like when we translate Tibetan text into English, we have to translate from the back to the front,
Yeah.
So this is the difference. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. You are welcome. Thank you.
Okay, today we're going to end here, and then thank you again, Skela. Please share us again more and more your wisdom in the future. And also thank you for all participating and joining here. Thank you. Have a wonderful day and have a good night, Skela.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Dorje. Thank you,
Thank you
Krishna. Thank you, everybody.
so much. Welcome.
Krishna.
That's